I'm gonna share my screen.
We are not able to hear you, Sumit. I don't know if it's just me or if others are able to hear you.
Uh, is everyone able to hear my voice?
It's quite
Yes,
a
we
little
can.
soft.
Is it better now?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's better.
So I'm going to share my screen now. Let's get started. So before I start, any questions from the last session? Anything that you guys think later on the API testing or the content that was delivered last time? Any questions on that? If not, then I'll move on. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is a tool called Talks. Uh, we use this tool to uh, basically for three things, right? First is that we check that our package really installs with current Python versions and interpreters. Uh, it's mostly an automated wrapper, a virtual wrapper around whatever Python build we are using. Uh, you might not be able to understand it at this point so much, but just for the information sake, let's keep it that whenever we try to do a build on Python, right, we need to specify a version that Python needs to be built with, right? A single machine can have multiple Python versions, so it needs to be specified which version we are building a Python package with, right? And different interpreters are there, like 2.7, 3.8, so 3.7, all are different versions and interpreters, right? To make it more simpler, right, on what to use and what not to use, um, a lot of a lot of the times it's very complicated to keep adding into environment variables or keep adding different Python versions for the build process, right? So Talks makes it much more simpler and much more automated in that way because it creates a wrapper around all that complexity and gives you a simple talks.ini file which you can configure, right? I'll show you the file soon, so that will become much clearer. And then it's basically a wrapper around PyTest, right, as well. So you can configure your test execution through Talks. For that, that is again a lot more automated because then you don't need to install any of the library that you are building your project with. The portability is one of the main core fundamental of Talks, right? So if I use talks.ini file in my project, if I if any other developer or any other colleague wants to use that tool, he doesn't need to install everything on his machine. Talks that do Talks will create a virtual environment and do that for for the project, right? Again, and also what happens is when you go to a continuous CI/CD environment, y- it takes away a lot of configuration out of that tool or your code and put it inside the talks.ini file, right? So when you try to plug into a CI server or a CI tool, it becomes really simple because it's just one line command, right? Before moving on further to Tavern, I'll I'll show you the talks file and explain more about it, right? So I created this simple project called Tavern Test Training. Uh, and this is the talks.inf file. Now I'll explain this file. This is a really simple file, and it takes a lot of work out of our bucket in terms of configuring and downloading and installing things, right? So the first thing is the environment list, right? I can have multiple environments here, right? Uh, I'm currently using Python 3.8, which is the latest version. But whatever version you have, you can put the version here, or you can put multiple versions here, right? When your project is built, it will, if you have defined multiple versions, it will build on 3, 3.8 and 3.7 both, right? So let's assume we are running some test. It will first run on Python 3.8, and then it will run on Python 3.7, right? Just to check the compatibility of the version for your project, right? So you don't have to give multiple commands saying that let's run these tests in Python 3.8 and then again reconfigure to run it with Python 3.7. The environment list does that for you, right? And this is a general configuration test environment, which basically tells what are the common parameters. So base Python is basically what I'm telling is if you want to, if the talks wants to create a virtual environment, it should build on top of Python 3.8, right? So it will execute all those commands, create a virtual environment, depending on what base Python you have mentioned. I generally keep the same as what I have installed. But then even if you don't have Python 3.8 or any other version, you can specify yours. The environment list doesn't require you to have multiple versions of Python. If you have one base Python, you can have multiple environment lists based on top of it, right? Always copy is the functionality which says that when you're creating a virtual environment, let's assume I'm running a test multiple times. So every time all these dependencies will be installed, right? Oh, I don't want to do that, right? Because once it is done, I want it to be stable for a while. So I keep always copy false because then it won't uh, take time to install all these dependency. It's only about the time thing, right? Uh, Not really. It's time as well as the version of your dependencies, right? So if you look here, right? So I mentioned the dependencies. So all these things you need for this project. You don't need to install it as a standalone uh, installation using pip. You don't want to install everything one by one. And if I move over my machine to another machine or put it on a server, I don't have to install things on the server, right? This will take care of it automatically, right? So I have PyTest, I have Tavern, I have PyTest JSON. Uh, so I've mentioned the versions here specifically to tell that it is sometimes become a necessity to mention the versions to keep this stable. Otherwise, what will happen is it will pick up the latest version, right? If I don't mention the version, it will pick up the latest version of the library, which might not be compatible with your uh, other libraries, right? So we need to constantly update it in terms of making it as a latest uh, version of the library. It might break your code. The best practice is to mention the libraries versions because then your project is stable, right? Uh, and if anything breaks, you are pretty sure that it's because of your code and not because of somebody has created another release in the library. And because the library is not working, your tests are not running, right? The So this is pretty simple in terms of how you want to create a test environment, which is basically a common uh, environment that we're going to use in further environments. So I've created an environment called Tavern, which has a base Python, the same as test environment base Python. So this is a variable that I'm using, which is basically saying pick up from the test environment, pick up the same value as base Python, right? So it becomes a common thing. Always copy. I can use the same way as I used here. And then dependencies, I'm using the test environment dependencies, the same dependencies. So this becomes my common, so I don't have to mention it in every environment, right? Now let's come to the commands. This is the most important part, which says that what you want to execute, right, in this environment. So I am executing PyTest. Uh, which has um an option called n of 1. So n is basically, it comes from pytest xdest, which basically tells me how many parallel run I want to run, right? So if I mention a number 5 here, it will run 5 tests in parallel, right? But I'm mentioning one, so it will only run one test. The idea is for xdist is to save time, right? A parallel execution becomes very important when you have limited time and you want to execute more tests. So if I give a value of 5, it will run 5 tests consecutively or parallelly. And then once those 5 tests are finished, it will again pick up the next 5 and execute it. So reduces the sequential time of execution, right? And this is basically the location of my file where which I want to execute, right? I've kept it pretty basic, pretty simple for you guys to understand. And then I have something called PyTest, which is again a common functionality for PyTest or common environment where I am mentioning when PyTest is running, right? What things it needs to consider. This is basically a PyTest configuration, which says I need to add option called TB short, which means that uh, whenever I get an error message and it gets displayed, if I keep it verbose, right, it's really, really long and difficult to read. And then no logging. So we are not logging anything. And then we have this tavern configuration that I'll talk about it later. Let's leave this for now. So what I want you, okay, first, any questions till now on this?
Um, Sumit Hetal here. Can you make your
Yep,
font little bit bigger? I cannot read anything. Sorry about that.
that's fine.
Yeah. Or maybe you can, do we have that file copied somewhere so we can follow open on a side and we can follow what you're talking about?
Yeah, I'll make my fonts a little bigger.
Okay, okay.
So what I want you to guys to do in the first place is uh, till I make my fonts bigger, I want you to create a folder, whatever name you want to give, and create it as a uh, not as a Python project, right? So I'll walk. Let's do this. Just create a folder, uh, like whatever folder you want to create, and then right click on it and open folder as PyCharm project, right? If you don't have this option, open the PyCharm editor and then open this folder from that editor itself. So here's the option. If you go file open, you can find your folder and open it from here. And the next thing I want you to do is create a talks.ini file in that folder.
Sumit, we have a question from Joy.
Yeah.
She's asking, how do you write a test strategy, test plan, and a test summary for an automation project? Could you please give us a template of the above for a cloud-based automation project?
Yeah, so it's a loaded question, right? It's not a simple one-line answer uh, that I can provide at this point, which is basically test strategy includes a lot of things. It needs a separate session altogether to detail out what includes in test strategy and what should get included in test plan, and how a report summary should look like, right? Uh, in terms of templates, right? There are uh, a lot of templates already. If you search for it, you can find it on Google. I can provide some templates that I'm using in my organization, but, but 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 to explain the template itself, right? It's going to take one session in itself. right? The templates for test strategy and test plan are basically are mostly m- include what type of testing the project is performing, right? It can include automation of functionality, API testing, UI, data, and performance, right? All these fall under automation strategy, but then all have different strategies, right? There is no set template, universal template that says that you can use this in any project. It has to be uh, tailored, specific to your need, the kind of testing you're doing, and project specific, right? So if it is a retail client, how much testing you will base it on, the security aspect of it, how much, if it is a mobile application, the automation, what are the components you really want to test in a UI application? Is it going to be uh, is it going to be on the communication basis, or API mainly, or the UI specific? It depends on what your application is loaded for, right? And then on the machine learning data automation side, it's completely different strategy, right? So there's no set template in terms of saying that if we follow this strategy, we are good. It's tailored, very specifically tailored to your project, right? I can send a sample template for UI testing later. But to explain that, strategy plan and report summary, it's going to take me one session in itself. All right, so create a talks.ini file inside that.
It should be type YAML.
Talks.ini.
Yeah, type YAML.
No, just keep it plain text.
Okay.
Sumit, your screen has grown. Like I can see only green thing.
I'm trying to expand to enlarge uh, the fonts.
Okay.
Can you see it now?
Not yet.
Yeah, I can see the fonts are bigger
I'm
now.
able.
Me
I'm
too.
able to see.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
able to see.
Oh, not me. Maybe I log in back again.
Yeah, you might need to either refresh. It might be a connection issue.
What is the file name you give? Doc or docs?
It's Tox, TOX.
TOX. Okay, because I cannot read that. Sorry.
Sumit,
Yep.
we have to open it as a new project.
So you created a folder, right?
Yes.
So once you create a folder, you just open it as, uh, do you get this context menu, open folder as a PyCharm project?
I'll just check.
If not, that's fine.
Oh,
So
I
if
did
you,
not
You
get it.
can even open in PyCharm as
right, so go to file, open file or project, and just open it from there.
Okay, this I have done. Yeah, open a new project I did in the this in PyCharm.
Right, that's fine.
Okay. Thank you.
One question.
So I'm gonna
Uh,
paste this content in Teams chat.
I have a question.
And I want you guys to copy this in the talks.ini file.
And the file option should be the YAML file option when we
No,
create
it's
in
a plain
INF.
text. Plain
Plain
text.
text. Okay. Thank you.
And once you've done this copying, create a folder called test. So what you can do is right click on your project and do new Python package, right? Once you do that, type the name of the new package, which will be test, and create that. It should, once the package is created, it will automatically have an init.py file.
Sumit, is there any steps written somewhere? So after copy paste, what we should do? If we are not following along with you, then we can just read and do it along.
No, uh,
Okay.
so in the presentation, I have not mentioned the steps. Then it will take me super long to write each and everything, right?
Okay. So I just copy pasted. What we should do next?
So next, create a package. So right click on the project that you have created.
Yes.
Go to new Python package,
Okay. You
right?
want to
And
create a
enter the name
package.
as test.
Okay. At a capital T or small, right? Test.
It doesn't matter.
Do we put the extension? Any dot extension?
No, it's a folder.
It is
So Python
default,
package
right?
is nothing but a folder, right?
Okay.
So the difference between a Python package and a directory is that it will have an init.py file, which you can create yourself to create it as a package. If not, then you can keep it as a directory if you don't have the init.py file. But it will become much more easier for you to
Correct.
create a setup file once you have the package.
Okay. Thank you.
And then I have
What should be the package file name? Can
I've written that in the chat, so you can use that.
the test? No, no.
So once the package is built, it will automatically have an init.py file. So you don't have to do anything. And once that is you have created the package, create a file, a YAML file inside the test folder with a naming convention of starting with test.tavern.yaml. Inside you can put anything, but let's not get into the naming part at this point and use the same name that I'm using. Right. I'll talk about what naming convention should be there and what considerations we need to do. Once that is done, you have created the YAML file. One thing that you need to do is install talks on your machine. So if I go to my command prompt, uh, any folder, I just need to do pip install talks. So this is the command I need to put since I already have it. So it's telling me is that the requirement is already satisfied. So I'll copy this command again on Teams.
Sumit, this pip install talks has to be run on Python command line, or like do we need
No,
to?
any command. Just open the command prompt, normal command prompt.
Do we need to go inside that folder to run it? Like I
No,
just ran
no.
it from,
You
from
you can run it from any location. Just open a command prompt uh, from your start menu or from anywhere inside the any folder, and just run pip. It's a global installation, right? So it's not
I think
specified
there's
on.
okay. I think there is some prerequisite which my system doesn't have because it says pip is not a recognized as an internal or external command.
Got it. So if that's the error that you're getting, then you don't have the environment variable set up for Python. So what you need to do is you go to environment variables. Can you see my screen now?
Yep.
So what you need to do is go to the path, edit, and you need to add your Python location. So I will add it here. I will paste this in the chat so that you can, what version you have installed?
It's an old version actually. My system didn't support the latest one. It is 18.3.
18.3?
Sorry. To the I mean the version is 2018.3.7. It's a
Yep.
PyCharm
Eh,
community 2018.3.
no, that's the PyCharm. I'm talking about Python. So can you type the command Python hyphen version and
Okay.
check on the command prompt?
Sumit, sorry, what was the name of the test YML file? Is there a mandate for the naming convention, or it could be like?
The mandate is that it has to start with test, so that PyTest will only pick up files that start with a prefix of test, and that for Tavern to run, it should follow a naming convention with any file that needs to end with .tavern.yaml, and inside you can keep whatever name you want. That's the naming convention.
Okay, got it.
So it has to start with test and end with .tavern.yaml.
I missed the beginning part of this lecture. Is Tavern something like the unit test framework, like JUnit or NUnit?
I'll talk about it. I haven't gone to the Tavern yet.
Okay.
I'm talking about talks at this point. I
Mhm.
will be going through Tavern next once the talks installation is complete.
Sure.
Hey Sumit, this is Kader. I'm back. So it's pretty silent. So I guess people are installing or what?
Yeah, people are working. yeah. Mostly now it will be silent only because it's mostly code along sessions going forward. So it will help them do things and start from scratch, right? It's more practical
I
rather than
understand.
me talking
Maybe
about
for
it.
2-3 classes to set them and get them up and running. It's always a hard work. Once they are up and running, then things Okay, so I was a little worried. I just joined. I was just, there's nobody talking. So I was like, hey, what's going on? All right, perfect. Please proceed.
It's good. I mean, you at least get to do some hands-on, right? That's my whole intention. Rather than me just going through the slides, there's no point. They will forget after it, right? Or it won't get registered. So this framework that we have selected, right? So we can ramp up testing on this in 1 day, right? That's the whole idea. Once they see how simple this is, then there will be a lot of confidence in moving forward with other frameworks, right?
Awesome.
So Kadir, do you want to take some time? You want to talk about something?
Is it a good time for you? Or
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Sure.
It's the best utilizing time.
Yeah. It's actually
commercial
good.
break.
Yes.
Yeah, let me see if I can share my screen. You guys see it? Please let me know, everyone. You guys see the screen?
Yeah. Just came in and.
No, I couldn't see that.
I'm actually sharing the team, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see the screen.
There I'm sharing the team.
But the connection is bad. Like your voice is breaking, Kadir.
Oh. Right here. Shad, can you do me a favor if your connection is good? Oh, okay. My voice is also not good, is it?
Now it's good. It was breaking sometime back, but seems like it's good now.
Yeah, but please stop me if it is breaking, okay? The others can hear me well, right, Sumit?
Yep.
Yes, we can hear you nicely.
Yeah, we can hear you, Kadir.
Okay, perfect. So guys, if you look at my screen here, there is a channel called Testoper Hackathon, right? So if you go to that channel and then if you click the survey here, you would actually see, something here. So I just wanted to take a couple of minutes to explain what one of the requests from the community members I want to work on project and I wanted to get experience on working on the real project rather than just getting some exercises and learning the coding and stuff like that. So the thought process that is kicked off in the mindset of the community is to kind of organize a hackathon for you guys, right? So I'm not sure if you know what is a hackathon or not. For those who don't know what is a hackathon, I kind of given some explanation here. I wanted you to go through this, but at a very high level, what does it mean is you would actually come up with an idea and then you form the team and you start building the idea and in the form of a solution, and then finally you basically go and pitch it in front of the judges, and if your solution with certain criteria passes, then you basically get become as a winner, right? So this is what it is. Now the advantage of this is twofold. The first thing is obviously you get to work on a project, and the second thing is when the project is there, it could be used as an open source for other people in the community, or even you could, if you're interested, you could start a company with that idea of your own, right? I mean, that's what there's many different outcome that it can result into. So just a very simple so Testoper Hackathon, I wanted you to go through that. That's what I kind of explained. The scope is I want to keep it open. It could be anything related to the automation, right? You wanted to do a test automation or operations automation, business process, anything related to the automation, product automation, any idea that you have. The first one, we just wanted to leave it open. And then I wanted you to understand some definition. Hackers means those who participate in that hackathon, right? He could be an architect, he could be a tester, he could be a developer, he could be a designer, DevOps guys, he could also be a business guy, right? It doesn't matter. All these different people are the hackers. And then supporters are who supports the hackers, right? Mentors who help them to make sure things are going in the right direction, both technical and business. Domain experts help you to give you some domain expertise so you can build on your idea, trainers, judges, and so on. So these are the roles, right? Hackers and supporters, and the different roles within hackers and supporters. So the program structure is going to be, we will we'll find one day where we will invite you all to come and pitch. Everyone can pitch your idea, right? And then whoever is listening the idea, they can come to you if they are interested to join and work with you on that idea. So that's what it's called as a PMT, pitch, meet, and team up, right? So you pitch the idea, meet and team up with the team, and then start implementing that your idea. It's possible that when you're pitching an idea, someone else can, don't like to work on it idea. In that case, you can go and join someone else's idea and you can form a team with them and start working on their idea, right? But that's your first thing. And then the second thing is after that, you start implementing, right? Some hackathons, they do it for 1 day. Some hackathons, you do it for 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, whatever. There are a number of things that you need to do, right? One is you need to build a solution, prototype or whatever as a project. And the second thing is you need to validate the market, create a business case. And then finally, the last day of the end of the hackathon, you come and basically present that. Judges, basically, evaluate your stuff. And it's like a competition fund, right? And then they provide you winning and prizes or whatever, right? So this is what is the hackathon all about. And I will stop here. What I need help from you is go and look through this, read through this, and see if you are interested to, support and join this program. And one of the ideas that we are having here is we have an idea, but really we wanted to see how the existing individuals, are interested in this idea, and if they wanted to join and do this hackathon as a fun way to learn and do projects and win prizes and so on. So we are trying to kind of understand, only within our community right now, who is already joining all our programs, right? Not outside. If you are able to get some good response from our existing community members, and if we know that like at least minimum 30 people will join this hackathon, then we will create this as an official program, and then we will bring the people from outside as well, right, together with inside, and then we can do this hackathon. Only thing is, if you're inside, we can at least get started with the beta program already with you guys to start working on your project, right? So, but it depends upon how many people are interested in this and so on. So that's what it is I wanted to say. Go through this, go to the hackathon, go through this, and then fill in your surveys and also try to engage yourself in the hackathon chat, and invite your friends and see if, I wanted to see if we can start this program. Are we getting momentum? If the people are interested in this, and if they are interested, I really wanted to help you guys to get started in the journey of innovation, entrepreneurship, doing projects, hands-on experience, etc., etc., etc. So that's more or less. I wanted to stop it here. Sumit, over to you.
Thanks, Kadir. We'll pitch this again once we are we've gone through a couple of sessions. Then we might have a better idea on what projects we really want to take on. Right?
Yeah, perfect. To start with, the people can actually go and read through that and understand, because I'm not sure if the people here, how many have done hackathons. I've done tens and 20s of them, right? Who here, I don't know how many of them have done it. For most of the people, it might be new. I wanted them to go to that meetup group, read them, written the explanation, fill up the survey. That will give us some kind of an input, right? It's not necessarily tied to this particular codeathon, right? It could be tied to something else, etc., right? They have some idea. Maybe Joy can come and say, "Hey, Kader, I have an idea to build something that can, automation on something that can help Brampton City to save people from getting COVID-19." You don't know, right? So anything to automation, I just wanted people to think about it, right? Not specific to this. Okay, yep. All right. Over to you, Smith.
Thanks, Kadir. So are you guys done till the steps mentioned till now?
Yes.
Okay. So the next step is what we want to do is we want to create a setup.py file. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on the project, go to the tools, and there's an option called create setup.py file. Just click on that and it will automatically create a setup file for you. It should look like this, where it says the setup, where the name is the name of your project and the packages that you just created, and the author, which is your name.
Go through the steps. Sorry.
Please
So
go through the steps again, which you have to go.
so click on the project,
Yep.
go to the tools,
Tools. Okay.
and there is an option. For me, it's grayed out because it's already created. It should be create setup.py file. Click on it.
Right.
That's an interesting name for the author.
Yeah, that's
Very
my laptop's
contemporary.
username.
Uh, just something called packages here. Only a
So this setup.py file is basically what other people will see when you deliver the project or build the project, right? They will be able to see what packages are inside this, what your project name is, what is the URL, email, description. So when you put it on a public space or deliver it, it's like your fingerprint, right? Are we done till here?
uh, the first line in your file is from distutils.core.
Yep.
From my in 9, it says from setup tools.
That's fine. That's fine. That's
Import
fine.
setup.
That's fine. That's fine. So if you're done till here, I'm gonna talk about Tavern. So what is Tavern basically, right? It's basically is a PyTest plugin. Why do we call it a PyTest plugin? The reason is that Tavern takes advantage of everything that is there in PyTest, right? It cannot work independently. It has to has a PyTest uh, on top of Tavern, where it will utilize all the features that PyTest provides and build on top of it as a separate unit, right? It's a command line tool, and basically what it does is it's a API testing Python library, right? Uh, it stands. So someone asked the question: is this a unit test functionality? No, we can do unit test with that with this, but then its major advantage is it competes with the likes of Postman, Rest Assured, Karate DSL, and it does that in a domain-specific language, right? It's very good for the integration tests. Uh, the some of the advantages that Tavern provides is it has a YAML-based syntax, which is a domain-specific language. You really don't need to know Python in order to run these tests, right? Very simple to ramp up on it. If someone has learned Tavern, they can ramp up and set up an API testing framework in one day. It's that simple, right? On the other hand, simple is not always good, right? Especially in an enterprise world where you need more complex, where the flow is more complex, right? And there are a lot of chaining in enterprise world, right? Like the authentication, you fetch the key from the response, and then you use the same key in your further test, right? So that's one kind of chaining. The other kind of chaining is the dependency of services, right? Like for Uber, right? So if a passenger has booked a cab, has it gone to the driver, and the driver then is accepting or rejecting it, right? So it's a chaining event, right? Those are highly complex tests to put it in an API sense, right? And then it supports all the RESTful APIs as well as MQTT based, which are queue based APIs. Uh, it acts as a plugin, so what all we need is just PyTest and Tavern. But for now, we are installing Talks. The reason being that we want it to be portable. We want our framework, we want our project to be portable, right? What that means is when we go deploy this project in a CI/CD environment or on a server, we don't need to do anything. We just put the project in and we run it from there, right? No configuration. All the configuration, we are doing it as a code, right? So we call this infrastructure as a code or configuration as a code, right? So the talks helps us achieve that, right? Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go through a basic Tavern test, which is we'll make a call, we'll make a simple test, and then we'll execute that test, right? Any questions till now? I need to look at the time. We have 10 minutes. I should be good to go. So it's not only me who will be executing our first test. Everybody here should be executing their first test, right? So I'll explain what a test looks like, right? Does this look complex to you? Okay, it's a simple YAML file. All we need to do is YAML is basically a tab-based approach. So the same level has uh, same level of stage, right? When we move further down, that means this the parent of URL is request, right? So we're gonna start with the top level, which is test name. Give any name to your test, whatever you want, and then we start with the stages, right? We can have multiple stages in a Tavern test. We can have multiple tests in a single file. We can have multiple uh, tests in a single stage as well, right? So I'm gonna do just one stage uh, for basic test. So I'm gonna put everything under stages. I'll show you why later, because everything should be going under stages. That's how Tavern decides what test to execute. And then the name of that particular stage, because I might have multiple stages. So I might need to provide multiple names, multiple time, uh, different names of individual stage, right? And then a basic request, which is I'm hitting this URL, which is basically, so what's this URL? Let's look at that first, right? Which is api.domainsdb.info. So this is basically the API, which basically tells me if I click, so this is the UI part of that API, right? So if I enter Facebook here and try to find it, what it will show me is the domains that are owned by Facebook, right? Facebook login, Facebook reset password, Facebook TV, Facebook connection, Facebook ads, download Facebook videos. So anything that contains Facebook, right? The domain search will help you find all those domains that contains the name Facebook, right? Very informational API. Useful, I don't know. It can be. Let's find LinkedIn and let's see what we can find. So there are 1957 owned by Facebook and 396 domains that has the name LinkedIn. LinkedInexpert.se. If you go here and click on it and find it, let's see if something comes up or not. So it doesn't exist. It's not to our front page. Let's see. Yeah, no. So it might exist. It might not exist. Is not the question here. The question here is it's giving me a list of domains that contains the name LinkedIn. They might not be functional at this point, right? Uh, and there might be some fake websites, right? And there might be some phishing websites. So be very careful to click on this, but then this is the information that I will get if I search through the UI, right? Now, how so UI has a limitation, right? If there are a lot of data, right? I might not be able to see it on a UI because it will take a lot of time to load that, right? Uh, but then they have the implementation of an API, which tells me that if I hit this API, right, which is basically, for example, I'm hitting this API. So let me just hit this API and see what I get, right? So this will give me a complete list of 1957 domains, right? Now, if I want to view this is the response is in a JSON format, right? Uh, and this is what we are going to validate in the test, right? What we want from the response. So if I look at the tree view of this, so these are the domains that I've got, right? So if I go click here, domain is Facebook ads live, create date of this domain is this, update date is this, country no, is dead false. There are a lot of sites that can be true, right? That information I'm not getting from the UI, right? I am not able to get that information from the UI because the UI is only listing the name of the domains, right? But it's not telling me, and it's look, if I'm clicking multiple times, it's taking so long to load, right? But the API was pretty fast. That's the idea of basically having an API, right? You don't need to show everything in the UI, but then you should have that data loaded somewhere so you know exactly what if I want to search on a specific domains, I can do that from by selecting these options. So I'm utilizing the data, but I'm not displaying all the data at once, right? That makes my page much faster. So if I go to here and then I open this, let's say what site is this? This is Facebook ads expert. Is dead false? Country don't know, create date, end date. This is the information that I'm getting from here. Now let's go to the test, right? So what I'm doing, what I'm doing is I'm sending a request on this URL. What I'm doing, the method I'm doing is a get request. This is a get request, right? And I'm hitting that get request on this URL, right? Pretty simple to read. What will happen if I do a get request on this URL? I'll get a response in the JSON format, right? First, the response, right? What response I'm expecting? I'm expecting a status code of 200, which is basically saying that it's successful. And then I'm checking for the headers where the content type should be application JSON, and then I'm validating the JSON itself, right? Which basically, so if I go to particular, so let me close the domain. So this is the JSON that I've received. This whole as a whole is the JSON, this one, right? This is a JSON. When I go to the preview, what I'm validating is what is the total value, and it should be this much, right? So what I'm validating here is I'm validating a total for the URL where the domain I have mentioned is LinkedIn, and the total should be 396. This is what I'm validating, right? In order to execute this, any questions till now on this? Very basic test, very easy to read, right? For API testing,
Yes.
right?
You're right.
So let's
Right.
yeah,
So here we are like giving in the details that you are expecting this result.
yes,
Okay.
yes. So we'll get a response once we hit the method get in this URL. We already got a response. Then now the response is here, right?
Mhm.
Now from that response, I want to check if my request was successful. The successful request means that I have a status code of 200, right? And from the response, I want to check if the response header contains a content type application JSON, right?
Yeah.
And from the body of the response, which is JSON body, I want to check if the total is 396.
Okay. So whatever responses we are expecting, each we have to mention it like separately here.
No, 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 no. So there are two ways to go about it. Once I'm checking only one thing, right?
Mm.
I'm only checking the total, right?
Right.
But if I want to check the whole response body, uh, if I want to check everything here, I can put this response in a file and I can validate that response with that file,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
The,
The,
the
the whole,
the important thing to note is that we are doing it declaratively. The
correct,
assertions are declarative rather than programmatic.
right. Though it is declarative at this point, but it has the flexibility to go and actually write more complex functions for the validation. So that topic will be the next topic where I will show how once the complexity increases, 90% of it or 80% of it, you can still do declarative, right? But the other 20%, which is really complex, which you cannot the declarative itself becomes so complex that you don't want to do it declaratively. You want to write a custom Python function, which you can use in this declarative manner, right? You still don't have to go to the code, but you will write a function that you can use on this declarative page or YAML file so that it's readable, it's much more suitable, and you exactly know what they're doing, right?
Right.
Okay.
So for example, just look at this text, right? This JSON. If I want to check the CNAME of, let's say, I want to count how many domains have CNAME, or let's say, is that true, right? That's a function. That's not a declarative statement, right? Because I have to go through individual response, get data for is that from all the response, and then from all the domains, and then I need to count how many of them are true, right?
Okay. So the parsing has to be done by us, or it is like it can be done automatically with some
It's
tool?
automatic. It's automatic. The JSON is already JSON parsing is already built on into it. So when you write the word response, it is already parsed.
Sorry.
It is already passed as an object of JSON. So what I'm doing here in the JSON is I'm just mentioning the total,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's
Right.
already parsed, and it has a. So what I'm checking is the parsed JSON has a value, has a variable called total with a value of 396.
Okay.
So that's the beauty of Tavern, is it's already parsed, right? Other frameworks like Rest Assured, you have to parse it, right? You have to put it in an object, and then you need to define what kind of dictionary you want to create, right? And then you have to fetch that fetch that value, and then validate it with whatever number you are, right?
Right. Right. Yeah. Thank you.
So let's execute this, right? Now, the beauty of this is the execution, right? All I need to do is talks e, and our environment name it Tavern, right? So if I go to the talks file, if I look here, my environment name is Tavern, right? I'm executing talks, giving a option of environment called Tavern. Now let's start executing. So look at this, right? All these libraries are getting installed. I don't have to do anything. Otherwise, if I don't have this and I'm running in pure Python without talks, I have to install all these libraries by myself. And then it doesn't become a portable thing, because then if you go to any other server, again, you have to basically do that.
Okay, this begs the question. In an enterprise environment, you may not always have internet connectivity to pull down all these packages. You may be in a
Right,
protected environment.
correct. So this is why always copy is false. You only need it the first time.
Okay.
So if it is true, you will need the internet connection, because then it will always copy this.
So when you say it's a portable environment, so the first time somebody has to copy it in, and then it's there. So the whole thing can be packaged up and ported over to another system and just set up and run.
It's already packaged. What we did is packaging only today, right? We created a talks package. We created setup.py file. These are the only two things that you need to create any package. So we already created a package. All you need to do is, once this project is ready, I'm going to put it on GitHub, and then I'm going to use the CI/CD pipeline to deploy it to whatever server I wanted. That's all I need to do. It's already packaged.
So all these packages that were downloaded are also in the package that you will be putting on GitHub?
No, that will be the runtime environment.
So
So
if I
that's
pull
the
it, if I pull that down and I transfer it to something that doesn't have an internet connection, it won't run, basically, because it doesn't have the packages, right?
Correct.
Right. Okay.
But then you won't be able to deploy as well, right?
I don't understand that.
How will you deploy something on a server which doesn't have an internet connection? Are you going to put a manual hard drive on it? Right? You need, when I talk about CI/CD pipeline, right? Let's say Jenkins, let's say Bamboo, right? They they are the tools of choice to deploy this, right? How will you upload something on GitHub without an internet connection? You cannot, right?
No,
So
you can always have an internal GitHub where there may be way. I mean, there will be definitely ways of pulling something down and getting it in the first time, but then reuse it again and again and again. So, but for the first use, you will need some way of getting down all these packages from wherever you get it down from.
yeah,
Yeah, I
so
understood. That's okay. I got it.
right.
It was
But
just a
it will
question
be a
whether you're
rare possibility where you are deploying on a server which doesn't have an internet connection, right?
So I guess
Because
he's talking about on-premises infrastructure, so where you can update your code by internal network.
right. So in that case, you will always have your artifact repository, right? You will have some artifact repository that you then need to make a connection to, right? So it will pull from there. So all
right.
you need
Okay.
to do is mention that artifact repository.
Yeah, yeah, got it. Yeah, all I wanted to know was when you say packaging, does it include all the, I mean, pip and Python packages that
So I'll show
we
you.
did
I'll show
here?
you. I'll show you. So when you talk about the packaging, right? This is all we did. So this .talks folder is the newly created folder. If you want somewhere to put this where it doesn't have an internet connection, you can use this .talks. You can copy this .talks folder and then put it over there. So you can upload this on GitHub as well, and then put the whole solution over there. Uh, and then it contains all your uh, libraries and all your. So if I
No,
delete this folder, right?
when I mentioned packaging, what I meant was, uh, suppose I want to containerize this whole thing and then just push it
Yeah.
out as a container somewhere else, which means that all the packages must already be downloaded and built into the container. Anyway,
So
I got what's happening. That's
right.
okay.
So
Thanks.
all you need to do is, if that's the case, generally I have deployed .talks on a container. Again, if it did have the internet connection, so it will create automatically a .talks folder in there. If not, you include this in your image, in your Docker image. You include this folder as well. That's all you need to do.
I think what Partha is saying is completely creating a production environment with everything that is required to run, right? From the platform to the code
Right,
and
right.
so yeah.
So
So
that's
suppose
where
you don't.
you will package this .talks folder as well along with it.
Yeah,
Then you
right.
don't need
But you
any
don't put
internet connection.
everything what you are deploying in the production environment into GitHub, obviously, no, right? You just put only the source codes and stuff like
Correct,
that.
correct.
You install all the platform in the production system, fetch the source code from the GitHub and deploy on top of that, right? After the build, whatever that. I think you both are talking the same thing from different
There are multiple ways to do one thing, right? So there are multiple ways to perform a packaging thing, right? It depends on what kind of infrastructure you have. So I know the, uh, what we do is basically, if that's the case, we go to a server, we then manually install all this because we need Python on that server as well, right? And then we create this as a requirement.txt file, and we run it before uh, before we deploy this package. So it will always exist on that server, right?
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
Okay, everyone has been able to execute this. So I have executed this, and the command is succeeded. That means it has the total has a value of 369. If I change this to to let's check 397 and run again. It should fail, showing me that it's not 397, it's 396.
uh, uh, Sumit, when you said everybody has run it, we haven't got the code. You didn't put the code in any way for us to paste it into our.
Oh, I'll do that. I'll do that. Sorry about that. So I'll just explain this and I'll copy paste the code. So my test failed because the total that I got was 396, which is not equal to total of 397. So what it's telling me, the key mismatch, expected total is 397, but the actual total that I got is 396. I will talk about the reporting in the next, in probably next sessions. This is not a very reader-friendly messages on the, because it's a direct output of STD error. It does give me a traceback to dig down. It's very good for debugging, but not for users, right? So we'll create something which is on top of it, which will provide a better reporting. But for now, for a simple test, this is what an error will look like. The expected total was 397, which I had mentioned in my file, and the actual that have come from the API response is 396, right? So I'm going to copy paste this on the Teams, and I and as a last step, I want you guys to execute this, copy this in the file that we have created, and then run this command, right?
So let's I'm going to hijack couple of minutes towards
Sure.
the end. So team, I know that you're joining this program. Thank you very, very much. But I do see that many of you are still not in the Microsoft Teams. Make sure that you join the WhatsApp and send your email address, WhatsApp group. Operations team, can you put the WhatsApp link again into the chat, please? Program team. So please join the WhatsApp group and then request us, provide us with your email ID. We can add you into the Microsoft Teams, and we really want you to collaborate not only during this session, 1 hour session, right? But we wanted you to collaborate before and after the session also. Now, I want to make sure that it is done. And let's see if the WhatsApp link has been posted in the chat. Not, if anyone has it, can you post it, or do you want me to post it? Okay, so that's number one. And then the second thing is, team, I'll also kindly request that there is a couple of things that in the community, in the Microsoft Teams, there's a couple of groups we have, like channels we have. One is your study group, and then the most important thing is the tech teacher, where we wanted to come up with some topic, and we want you guys to collaborate and share your thoughts on that topic. So tech teaser is one of the channels that I really recommend you to collaborate. And then also we have another most important channel, which is the Cisco for Jobs. So we have a couple of members in our community, right? Volunteer members who try to come and post the different jobs that are out there in the Tesco for Jobs channel. So you should actually use them to leverage and see if it is useful for you to look for new jobs, right? And also in your company, if you see some of the jobs that require, you should also be coming and contributing and posting it here. So it's, like I said, Testoper community is all about we all working together to make this community happen. So please make sure that you leverage the jobs channel, leverage the study group channel where you have the study groups happening offline, leverage the tech teaser channel. And finally, also, like I mentioned, read through the hackathon channel, the survey, try to understand. And if you are interested, excited, let us know, because we are trying to seek the interest of our existing people who wants to really become an innovator and do this program with us. And if we get enough support to kickstart this program, we will start this program for sure. Right? So these are some of the key points I'd like to share. Sumit, over to you. If you want to close the call, or you still are running it.
Just one thing I forgot to mention, that the talks command has to be run from inside the project. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cd to a folder, the main training folder, and then run the command. Basically, what I need is the talks.inf file to be inside the folder where I'm executing the command.
And Sumit, when I ran it, what happened is that it opened a few command windows one after another,
Yeah,
and
uh, I guess it's a command. Uh, it's a command problem because what happens is basically it tries to install all these libraries, but it does uh, open the first time it opens multiple times because it's installing in different windows. Uh, but uh, uh, but
okay.
when I use like a PowerShell or something, currently I'm using Terminal for Windows, and if you even use PowerShell, it doesn't do that. It's only with the default command uh, that uh, terminal that it does the first time it does that.
And
But
what
the
if
test,
I
okay.
what if I interrupted that?
Sorry.
I interrupted all those windows. Basically,
So
close them
they
in
will
the middle.
they will close by itself, right?
They will close
You don't
that.
have to
Yeah,
close
they
them.
do close
Well,
by
I
them.
know, but I am not sure if they finish what they were supposed to do because when I saw multiple windows opening, I just closed all them.
Mhm.
I might have interrupted
So
the process.
it won't show you what it's doing, right? It will just open and close after a couple of seconds, right? So don't worry about it. Let it do that.
Yeah, I'm saying that I didn't let them to do it. I
Oh,
got freaked out and I killed them all.
Why
Oh,
don't you
okay, okay.
just
That's
try
okay.
to
That's okay.
execute the command again?
Right.
You can try to run the same command
I
again. Talks.
it doesn't pop up
Exactly.
anymore, but I'm getting different type of error now.
Yeah, it does only the first time, so it won't do it again. So that's fine.
And also, Sumit, I think solving all error problems, is something that you need. The team needs to engage with you before and after the program, right, through the Microsoft Teams. Just want to make
That's
sure that
right. So I will be answering the questions because I'm pretty sure 1 hour is not enough. So there will be follow-up questions, and I will be answering throughout the week. So I'll request everyone. Good point, Gather. I'll request everyone if you're facing issues or you're facing a blocker, just throw those questions uh, on the Teams chat, and I will try to answer as fast as I can. If not, if other people who have gone through the process and they know the answer, they can also help you along.
exactly, it's not easy to rely only on script, right? Those I'm sure that we have like 45 attendees today, and there are many experts in the call, or someone that have already learned, and they should also take initiative to respond and fix the problems of the members, right? We need to create this collaborativeness. That's the only way that we can all be successful. Um, and also want to make sure, Sumit, right? It's okay. We are improving. Last time we did it at 8:20, we closed now 8:18, right? Slowly, we need to get back to the discipline of 1 hour and worst case 1 hour 15 minutes, which is what we plan for. Make sense, Sumit?
Yep, yep.
And finally, guys, we also looking people to support Sumit in this effort, right? So you're giving hard time to Sumit today, but you have to remember, right? The life cycle is vicious, right? It rotates. It comes. What you reap is what you seed is what you reap, right? So you also have to support Sumit in training, right? Answering the questions, and maybe you should reach out to Sumit and see if there is any topic that he planned to do. You wanted to take the floor and train the team, and these kind of things you need to get this initiative started from your end, so you are successful. It's also a learning platform for you all. It's not an official platform like a company where you're going to be put down for something bad that you have done. So this is a platform for every one of you to really make use of it, learn, come out of the fear, and be productive, and be experienced in doing these kind of things, right? So kind request, please reach out to Sumit. He needs help. All alone, very tough for him to deliver. Thank him by joining him and supporting him to train the community members. So
Yeah.
with that,
So
should I
I
go?
see a lot of people getting error. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload this my project on GitHub, and I'll send you guys a link, and then you can compare both your version and my version and try to execute both the versions and see where there it is. If not, then shoot the questions on team. We are very short of time. We are already 20 minutes overdue. I know code along sessions take a bit longer, but let's do it this way. I will upload this code on a GitHub repository, send you guys the link on Teams chat, and then after that, try to execute if it's not working, and try to see what your version and where things are different. Try to make sense of it. If not, just shoot the questions on Teams chat and then I'll answer them.
Perfect. Practically I've seen many sessions. Within 1 hour, there's no way that you can going to solve the problem. So this has to be collaborative environment after and before the event. That's the only way we can take it forward. And Sumit, I'll leave it to you. I think we set a good foundation today, and I'm confident that people will start collaborating after this session throughout the week, and things will get smoother in the process.
So one thing I wanted to ask from everyone is this: what practical means to you, or you guys want more concepts as the first stage and then jump into the coding part, right? So so my objective is basically to teach the concepts along with the code, right? Is this something that you think is working for you guys, or do you want something different on the training side?
I
In
think this
my
works.
yeah, this is the best way of learning anything.
Yes. Yes, in my opinion too. Yeah.
Agreed.
All right, then I'll then follow the same pattern. I'll continue this way. Okay. That's it
Concept
from
and
me.
coding go hand in hand, and you're doing a great job, Smith. A lot of time, it also depends on the trainer to trainer, and it's very difficult to tell some trainer to change his style, right? Because same presentation, if Partha does, if he will do it in a style, I do it in a different style.
Your voice is breaking, Father.
Okay. Well, there's some problem with the internet. All right. So I think what I mentioned was the way that you're doing it the best way, Sumit, based on my experience. Okay. I think we should continue doing this. Yeah.
Okay, awesome, guys. Thank you so much. I'll upload and send you the link, and then we can move it forward from there.
Okay, sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Thanks so
much.
much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye.
Bye.
Sumit, are you there? If anyone is here, can anyone who is here can say hi to me? I just want to.
Yeah, hey Kadir.
Who is this?
Just read.
Preet. So when I was talking, was it really breaking today? Did you guys receive whatever I was trying to say?
The last part of it was